punch probably for them in this massive portal class is David Bailey, the edge rusher from Stanford. Dude had 5 forced fumbles last year playing for that Stanford team, which is sort of like Paul Skeens pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I'm curious about how this works for Texas Tech because, you know, it's the best roster money can buy.
Is Bailey a first-round NFL type of talent out of Stanford, now Texas Tech? You see him as a possible?
No question.
Stanford lost out on David Bailey for $3 million to Texas Tech, the equivalent of Stanford's entire estimated NIL fund.
There are rich teams and there are poor teams. Then there's 50 feet of crap. And then there's us.
Now, the problem mentioned by Billy Beane is one that most college football programs are dealing with right now. I'm Andy O'Rourke. I have formerly worked for Stanford, Pro Football Focus, and San Jose State, and I think I had the solution to this. It's nothing new that college football has been full of haves and have-nots, but that's kind of changed in the last few years with the introduction of NIL. We've always had the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Michigans, the LSUs, the blue blood programs that have ran college football for generations, but now really any team can become a contender overnight. All it takes is one big money donor who really cares about football to throw money at this program so that they can go on and compete at a high level. That's where we get Texas Tech. That's where we get Indiana. They got the NIL funding for it, and now look at them. They're on their way to college football championships potentially. But if you don't have those resources, how do you overcome that? You have to be smarter with your money. You need to maximize your return on investment. This is very similar to what Billy Beane did with the Oakland A's. He lost a star player in Jason Giambi to the New York Yankees, a big money team, and he could never afford to pay that type of money. But he had to replace him in the aggregate. Now, there's math behind football. Football analytics have came a long way, and it's far more than go for it on fourth down. We can look into player projections. That's what we're going to dive in today, in particular edge rushers, and how their numbers on the field translate to on-field success. It's not just, oh, he was good at this level, I don't know if that will translate. The numbers are fairly stable. And I'm going to break down today on how FCS players can transfer from Group of 5 and to Power 4, and how they will have on-field success because of that. So to start, we got to know what pass rush win rate is. Pass rush win rate is a measurement that tracks how often a pass rusher is beating the pass blocker opposite them. And 16% of these pass rush wins turn into sacks. With that, you can kind of project roughly how many sacks a player is going to have. Now, obviously, you have to take into other things into account, like who are they playing, what are the offensive linemen opposite them, and at the end of the year, you can make a pretty good projection about how many sacks this guy should have. The other really powerful aspect about pass rush win rate is you can project regression. There's some guys that have outlier seasons where they get a really high sack total, but the wins don't add up. For example, this would be Vic Beasley during his 15 sack season. He only had roughly a 10% pass rush win rate, but he had 15 sacks. For reference, if he were to have that to be stable, he would need to have a 20% pass rush win rate. So the regression was inevitable for him. Inevitably, he not only got worse at his pass rush wins, he also had a much lower sack total. I don't think he even got close to 5 sacks the rest of his career. Complete outlier for him, but that production was super high. If he had been in a contract year, he would have gotten a massive deal for somebody in the open market. But because his pass rush wins were so low, you could project the regression. You knew he wasn't really a true 15-sack guy. That season was an outlier. Now, it really helped the Falcons in that season, and Beasley was always a guy that could get a higher sack total than win rate. He always was above that for his career, and there's guys that are like that. And there are other guys that are below that. For example, Brandon Graham's always a guy that has a high pass rush win rate and a lower sack total. So some guys are better at converting sacks to others. We're talking about averages. And Beasley's was a statistical outlier that proved out to be worthy of noting for the metric of pass rush win rate and how stable it is and how good it is projecting future success. Relaying this back to baseball, there's metrics in baseball analytics that kind of got me motivated to look into this as to what could be predicted for pass rushing. And those metrics are things like barrel rate, hard hit ball rate, and that's what pass rush win rate is. It is one of those advanced metrics that is really predictive to how they're going to end up playing. Barrel rate and hard hit ball rate are super predictive in how a guy is going to continue to perform for his future. where batting average is kind of fluky. There's so many other variables in there. How's the defense shifting over? Did you hit a line drive that's normally going to be a hit, but it went right to a guy? That's good contact. You want to see good contact for a good hitter. A good pass rusher, you want to see high pass rush wins. You don't want to see fluky hits. Like, you could hit a weak ground ball, but you beat out that ball. But most of the time, it's not going to be a hit, right? Most often that ends up being an out, but you convert it into a hit. That's lucky, but that's a point to your batting average. And people might look at your raw batting average and say, man, that guy's a really good hitter. But you do that a few times in the season. That's a complete outlier, and your batting average is inflated. Same thing with sack rate, right? You could have an unblocked pressure. The offensive line slides away from you. You come clean. It wasn't even schemed up. You get a free hitter on the quarterback. It turns into a sack. Your sack rate's inflated now because of that. You didn't actually beat anybody. You actually weren't that great of a pass rusher. It was fluky. It was luck. And that's what pass rush win rate aims to take out of the equation, is how good are you at actually beating the guy opposite you. Now that we understand how pass rush win rate works, we can start diving into the Moneyball aspect of this.
We need 38 home runs, 120 RBIs.
Now, the problem Stanford was facing is they're losing 7 sacks. And those 7 sacks cost $3 million. You need to figure out how to return most, if not all, that production for drastically less than that cost. Now, in that 2024 offseason, there was one guy that I identified that fit this bill. Affordable and productive. His issue? Coming from the FCS level and undersized. His name? Finn Claypool. Finn Claypool played at Drake, where he dominated FCS ranks at a very early age. Starting his freshman year, he was already pretty productive with a super high pass rush win rate. Going into his sophomore year, he would continue that production. His junior year, that would be sustained. His senior year, another awesome season. As a grad transfer, he would enter the portal and was looking for a new home. He wanted to move up for a chance to prove that he could beat higher levels of competition. At the time, I hadn't completed this study. I was working on it, and I had rough ideas. I worked at PFF, so I understood what good pass rushing metrics looked like. And, well, frankly, Finn Claypool was insane at these. He was off the charts. He projected awesome. His numbers kind of mirrored that of Jared Verse, but he was really undersized. And there was no telling how that undersized edge rusher would project to a Power 4 level. It's just not precedented. There's no reason that he would be good because historically they're going off of arm length, height, weight, size, but his numbers were phenomenal. I, unfortunately, didn't have the data to back it up at the time, so naturally when you bring in the 6 foot, 235 edge rusher, people laugh and say, no, we're not going to take that guy. Sure, his tape was awesome, but we don't know how that's going to translate. And I was 24 at the time. How am I supposed to back that up? Other than, well, I know these numbers are good. There's no knowing how these numbers would translate. Hence led me down the rabbit hole of proving that I think these numbers will translate and exactly how they will do that. With all that calculated using standard deviation and different percentile outcomes, I was able to project the role that David Bailey was vacating at Stanford and give a rough estimate on how different FCS guys would come in and would have produced in that situation. Finn Claypool was far and away the best projection. Claypool would have had 3 to 4 sacks, 3 on the low end, on the high end of his variance would have been 4. If he played 150, 140 of David Bailey's 200 vacated snaps. Now, I'm factoring in that you probably want one of your young rising sophomores or rising freshmen to step in. They take over that aspect of it, play a small role, and let's say they have a 10% pass rush win rate. That would produce another sack. You would have returned 4 to 5 sacks out of David Bailey's 7 sacks. Now, that's awesome. That's not the 7 sacks, but here's the real kicker. David Bailey cost $3 million. In an interview with these guys, I was able to get some ideas about what group of 5 guys were making. Those 2 guys combined on Stanford's roster probably would have netted out between $75K and $100K. So for a fraction of that $3 million, you're returning 71% of the production. This is how you moneyball it. This is how small market teams can take an undervalued asset like Finn Claypool, undersized, nobody's going to want that, and plug him into the lineup and see him succeed. Now, you listen to all that and you're probably thinking, that's all well and good, but he didn't transfer to a Power 4 school, so this is all theoretical. And yeah, he was still undersized. You didn't take him. How do we even know that he still would have been productive at that undersized profile? And that's true. However, he did transfer to a Group of 5 school in Fresno State. And at Fresno State, he would go on to have a 9-sack season, which actually is exactly what the models projected him at. And his pass rush win rate stayed exactly to what we projected for him to do if he went to a Group of 5 school. So for the Group of 5 level, it's about a 1% variance, right? They go up or down 1% typically from what they did at the FCS level, especially if they have the early breakout that's super, super solid. The older guys, it gets a little bit more fluky and a little bit more loud with the variance. But he did what the numbers projected him at the Group of 5. He also put on 15 pounds. He went up from 235 to 250, and he still dominated the Group of 5 competition, which shows that, okay, we don't know how he would have done at the Power 4 level. But at the Group of 5 level, he's still dominating. If you return 9 sacks at the Group of 5, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to return 4 to 5 sacks, heck, 3 to 4 at least, right? I mean, 5 would be the high end, but say you cut his production in half and he returns 4 to 5 sacks because the level of competition is that different, you are still getting a bargain on that price. I think that holds up, that he could have came in and replaced David Bailey and replicated a lot of that production. Now, playing the other side of this equation in Texas Tech, David Bailey was a phenomenal take for them. He only had 7 sacks at Stanford. However, he'd go on to have 14 sacks for them. And if you look at his pass rush win rate, that's exactly what it would have been projected with a larger amount of snaps, which they ended up playing him for way more snaps there. He doubled his snap total from Stanford to Texas Tech, and he dominated opposing tackles. His numbers jumped from 7 sacks to 14. Again, the numbers projected him to do better, and he did. So they paid him the $3 million with a bit of a projection. I mean, you probably wouldn't want $3 million for only 7 sacks of production, but for a 14-sack season, the numbers exactly projected him to do that. And arguably, you get a first-round caliber pick, maybe a top 15 pick, and for $3 million, a berth in the college football playoffs, one of the best D lines in college football for the year. Phenomenal take by them. Also played out by the numbers in the power of pass rush win rate. I'm Andy O'Rourke. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content like this, I'm going to be doing more studies throughout the off season on it. Like, subscribe, and follow for more content.